Doug Kezirian worked as a sports anchor in Las Vegas for 6 years, ESPN Sports Center anchor now, and host of Behind the Bets podcast. And he joins us here on Big Board Sports 104.5, the Team ESPN Radio in Albany. Doug, Roger Weil, and Chris Honorado, good morning.
Good morning to you guys. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks, Doug. Appreciate it.
Talk,
yeah.
Doug.
Yeah. Let's roll with this today. Hey, Doug, what has been the positives and negatives since the Supreme Court ruling came out on Monday?
Well, I think the key to think is the stigma. Like, that's my sort of victory. It's just like the label, the stigma. I think this is a big first domino to start that erosion. And I think when we get to general acceptance, because I think what needs to happen is people need to realize that the U.S. Supreme Court on Monday didn't all of a sudden create a new vice. They didn't generate all this, vice behavior. It's already been going on. And this is just a way to kind of make it legal and above board and tax the income and just sort of embrace the situation that's already been out there.
Doug, we had Trey Wingo on the show with us yesterday, and he brought up a good point that if it's legalized, it can be regulated as such. And if anything is being done that's deemed untoward, if a game or a match of any sort is being thrown, it's a lot easier to find that type of stuff because the line is easily identified and the betting trends are easily identified if it's regulated. To me, that becomes the biggest positive of all this.
Well, again, this is not nothing's going to change. This is not coming out of nowhere. It's not like, oh my God, we have to worry about funny business. It's already been being regulated. It's already going on. It's just people are sort of uncovering. So Trey is accurate 100%, but it's nothing new is what I'm saying. People are like, what? Sports betting. But it's been going on. There's high estimates of $400 billion bet illegally in the United States through bookies and offshore. And to Trey's point, the more that money gets above board and regulated, then there's more authorities tracking bets. Yeah, you're right. But professional sports are never going to be tainted. And it's only the colleges that you have to keep an eye on because the players are impressionable. But Monday's ruling did not make them more impressionable. That's my point. And to Trey's point, it actually there's a chance it's going to be more regulated. But anybody who's trying to fix the game is still going to do it with bookies.
When you talk about being able to go out and place bets and get ready to roll, what's going to be is Monmouth Park, will they be the first to launch, Doug?
Right. So what happens is, and this is important for your listeners to recognize, if the federal ban was lifted, that doesn't mean the federal authorities say now you can go bet. It's saying, all right, this ban that was in the early 90s is unconstitutional, and so now the ban is lifted, and now every state can operate independently and proceed whatever that state's appetite is, and has to pass state laws, state regulations, all that stuff. It's all at the state level. Now, while the Supreme Court was determining whether this federal ban was constitutional or not, other states have at least introduced some form of legislation, including New York, including Connecticut, including other states. Now, Jersey's the furthest along. They've already passed all this legislation. So they're targeting Memorial Day to have over-the-counter bets at Monmouth Park in Atlantic City and to start taking legalized sports betting because they were optimistic and confident that they would get that federal ban lifted so they can proceed as a state.
And then who would be right behind them?
Well, there's another tier. So I mentioned Connecticut, Delaware, Mississippi possibly. All can eventually start acting like Nevada sooner than we think.
All right, so Doug, if let's say all 50 states jump on board, and we know the leagues, at least Adam Silver has made this publicly known, hey, raise my hand, we want a cut of this thing. We want 1% of what is gambled on our sport. Now, that has not happened, even though it's been going on for how long in Nevada. Do you believe these professional leagues have any chance of drawing some revenue from multiple states now being eligible to take sports bets?
Yes. So it's not going to be 1%, and the concept and label of integrity fee is insulting. Integrity fee meaning like it's suggesting that currently sportsbook operations are shifty, shady, funny business, and need more funds allocated to maintain the integrity of sports. That is not the situation. Everything is above board. What we just talked about, they already regulate it, and they want regulation. The key is to get just a compromise or cooperation. Right now in Nevada, they pay a federal excise tax. It's called. It's 0.25%. So Adam Silver said 1%. That's 0.25%. And what happens is the reason they want to do that is because you can gain things in negotiations. So maybe sports betting communities and businesses want to advertise during the broadcast of games, or maybe even as far as like on the jerseys down the road that we've seen. There are many layers to this, and they'll work it out. But the funny thing is, and what I love is that these leagues that are demanding something, they have zero leverage. There's nothing that the sportsbook industry really needs from the leagues. All they need is a television monitor and a box score. They do not need your permission. But we can all work together. We'll give you a little slice of the pie, but we want something in return that you can help further our brand and further our reach.
So, Doug, how long do you think it'll be before, like Albany, New York, like we head over to Rivers Casino here and start betting?
Well, the problem of the timing of it all is that there's going to be a summer break, right?
Right.
For lawmakers. And we were worried about that with the Supreme Court because they're going to break. So we were like, got to get a decision because we want stuff for football season. So I do not think New York will be up and running in football season, but maybe by the end of the year, if not early next year. And I think what's going to happen is there's going to be very technology-driven, and Albany residents and New Yorkers will probably be able to bet on their apps. And, GPS will be in the phone, so you have to be in New York. You don't just open up an account in New York. Let's say you're an Albany resident, you bet, and then you're traveling to, like, Texas for the weekend. You can't bet because your phone, GPS or whatever, you're not in the state of Texas.
Doug Kezirian of ESPN with us here on Big Board Sports 104.5 The Team. Check him out on Twitter. Great information there, especially pinned to the top of Doug's Twitter page. We'll kind of break down everything you need to know about the Supreme Court ruling. He's at Doug ESPN. The podcast is Behind the Bets as well. Doug, great information. And actually, Governor Cuomo, it said something similar to what you were alluding to there, like, there are only so many days left on the 2018 calendar, and he did not sound optimistic as to whether or not this thing would get done for New York residents in 2018. So, Raj, I know you're fired up about, like, hey, Giants favored by whatever, 5. I like that a lot, and let me put in a bet on my phone. I love the idea of doing it on your phone, though, Doug. Do you think this... My answer would be yes, but you're closer to this than I am. This has to be a huge boost for TV ratings and TV contracts related to each individual professional league, doesn't it?
Well, before I answer that, let me ask you this. And, of course, it's just us talking, no one listening.
No.
If you're into betting, do you guys already bet through a bookie or offshore?
I don't, and I'm really not much of a gambler to begin with. But, like, I've played fantasy football before, and I've watched NFL games that I otherwise would never pay attention to.
You're thinking when it's legal, you might open an account and do it above.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, I don't, but I will.
Okay, so that's exactly what they want. Like, they're targeting that. There's a school of thought out there that says substitution effect, so people who are already doing it with their phone online and gambling will just move over and do it above board.
Yeah.
Then there's the concept, and there's a school of thought that people that are already doing it, why would they bother? Because, they are already comfortable and it's easy. So it's like, then come full circle to answer your ratings question is how much will it be different? Like, I think there's already, if there's an estimate of 400 billion people betting in terms of people, not the money being bet, and people are already, like, the current ratings already reflect people that are watching because of gambling.
Okay.
So it's hard to project how much the ratings will go up when there's already so much money being bet currently illegally that how much of it will go up is the $1 million question.
Interesting stuff,
Man.
no doubt, man. This is going to be interesting to see how this stuff plays out once we get the thumbs up, even here in good old Albany, New York, and what people do with it. Doug, thanks for a few minutes. Great work with ESPN Sports Center and of course behind the Bets podcast. We appreciate a few minutes.
My pleasure. Thanks so much.
Thanks,
Thank you, Doug.